Thank you for joining me on a quilting tale today. I'm going to share with you a project that I've been working on for almost a year now, and it's Fat Quarter Shop's 2020 Designer Mystery Block of the Month Club. This is my first time doing mystery blocks. All I knew going into it was that the fabric would be Bloomington and that there would be floral elements from the sneak peek that I saw. So I really liked the colors and thought I'd give it a shot. And it's been a fun project to work on, something to look forward to each month. And so I just got the 12th final block in the mail recently, and it's called Hydrangea Hoopla. And I'll show you the fabric that came with this one as well. You can see there's some kind of spring greens and kind of reddish corals and the white on white polka dots there. There are also some blues and tans that aren't in this particular block, but I've found that they've been very generous with the amount of fabric that they give. This polka dot fabric here, I actually had so much left over. I used it in the background fabric of my daughter's quilt with the Glam Girl fabric that you may have seen if you watched my Sew and Tell trunk show. And so I still have a lot left over, not just of the white, but of many of the prints here. So I'm happy about that. I'll definitely find something to do with those. Let me just give you an idea of what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to put the block together. I'm not going to show putting the actual block together, but I'll show you it when it's finished. But what I really wanted to focus on is how I'm going to put my quilt top together. I have the finishing kit and I plan on sticking to it as closely as possible, but because it doesn't tell you the directions to orient the blocks, because it's a mystery, I'll just talk about my thought process, why I'm doing it the way I'm planning on doing it. But just know there's no one correct way to put it together, and the best way is the way that you think looks best. So I just thought if someone else is doing the mystery block of the month and you're feeling kind of stuck and maybe need some inspiration, this might help you to see one way you could do it. But again, it's something I've been working on for a while and just wanted to share the progress of that. And before I get started, I also wanted to talk a little bit about what this particular quilt has meant to me. If you've visited my website, aquiltingtale.com, you may have seen the tagline, "Every quilt has a story," and this one definitely does. I'm an elementary school teacher, and I started this quilt in June of 2020. And it was when schools were shutting down because of the pandemic. We ended up having to shift gears and do remote teaching. And I've been a teacher since 2005 and just suddenly felt like a brand new teacher all over again, just adjusting to teaching over the computer and talking into a camera, which actually, now that I think about it, has probably helped me with this. But it was definitely experience and challenging and stressful, and so this block of the month was just something to look forward to and just a way to take my mind off of all the changes and uncertainty that was happening, and just kind of zone out and have something fun to do. And that was just quilting in general. But this particular quilt, I just remember thinking when I started it that by the time I'm done, I'll be wrapping up the next school year. And so here I am, just 3 weeks away now from finishing the 2020-21 school year. And I just look back and think about, how flexible and adaptable not just the staff, but the families have had to be, and just all the challenges that we faced and have passed. And I just think I'll look back at this quilt when it's done and remember this particular time in my career and just the world in general in this time. But it'll really remind me that, hey, you you were able to show yourself what you were capable of, and that you can adapt and be resilient. And so I'll just always have that appreciation, I think, when I see this quilt in the future. So with that being said, let me show you some pictures of the 12 blocks that I've put together. And so I'm gonna put this last one together first, and then I'll share those photos of each block, and then we'll talk about how I'm gonna put the top together. Here's my finished block number 12 hydrangea hoopla, and I wanted to just share a couple observations that might help it go together more easily for you if you haven't put it together yet. One is to pay attention to the pattern orientation of the diagonal stripes in here. The pattern shows solid diagonal green and white stripes in the side diamonds, but mine only partially turned out that way. I thought I followed the orientation in the pattern exactly, so just watch your stripe alignment in this step if it matters to you. And then also, when you're putting these corner diagonal pieces on, to avoid, cutting off the corner or not touching the corner, I would watch on the back. What I ended up doing was putting a pin right at that intersection there. I don't know how close I can get in there, but just put a pin right where the threads intersect, and that way you know when you're sewing your diagonal line to make sure that you hit that point so you get it right at the corner. But it's a real pretty one, and I'm gonna put it in the top now with the rest of the blocks and talk about the orientation of those corner blocks now. Alright, so here's my design board right now, and the top is in a partially constructed stage right now. So I have the 4 corner blocks placed like the pattern says, with blocks 9 through 12 in the right corners here. But what it doesn't show you is how to orient them. And so with block 9, that one, it really didn't seem to matter, and so I had gone ahead and attached that one. But then when I saw the tulip for block 10, I noticed it was pointing up, and so that made me just pause and think, before I attach it, I better wait and see what the other ones look like. So I have it sewn on with the corner pieces, and what I've been doing with those when I trim them is just trim a 1/4 inch away from the white corner there. Same thing up here. So I just trimmed again a 1/4 inch away from the blue corner. And there's a third one down at the bottom. And so when I did that, I was able, I can show you on block number 9 here, I was able to get that point so it's not cut off or come short. So now I'm just trying to decide if the last 2 tulips, if I want them to point up, which is kind of what my instincts tell me, but I want to see what it looks like pointing them different directions. And if you look at the center, the flowers point in all different directions, so it doesn't seem like a directional quilt, like you could just turn it any way. But if I do point the flowers up and down, then this one becomes my top. And so I think what I'll do is just take some pictures and kind of stand back and look at them, see what I like. And I'm going to turn them different directions and see if it makes a difference. Ultimately, I decided I'm going to have one tulip in the corner pointing upward while the other points down, and it may not be this exact configuration, but what I like about it after rotating through a bunch of pictures at, different degrees, when I have, for example, if this were my top one pointing up, then I have a tulip pointing up. If this were going to be the top, this one would obviously be pointing sideways the way it's laid out now, but this one would also be sideways, and so it still has that balanced look to it. So I think that's the only way I can really see making this a non-directional quilt, and still, feel like it's balanced. I think that's what I'll go with. So I'm gonna finish putting it together and I'll show you my final top. Just a tip for when you're attaching the white strips to block 12, in order to get the white strip to meet at the corner here, you want to make sure that your stitch line, let me zoom in here, make sure your stitch line goes across this point here where the two white pieces intersect down at the bottom. So just have your stitch line run across there, and your corners won't be cut off. Alright, I've got one of my corner units ready, and I thought I'd just go over how I trim them. So the corner units each have 3 points, and if you want your points to be touching the diagonal sashing that goes around the center diamond, what you'll want to do is trim 1/4 inch away from the points. So when I'm lining my ruler up, I'm going to trim right here. I have my 1/4 inch marked here, and then I want to do the same up top here, so we can see 1/4 inch away. So I'm going to be trimming off this piece here, and I would recommend going slowly, not doing really long cuts, just kind of adjusting as you go to make sure that you're staying aligned with your 1/4 inch mark from the points. Okay, so I'm starting with the top point here and the middle point. I'm making sure that I'm 1/4 inch away from both of those, and then I'm going to start cutting just below that middle point and hold my ruler down firmly. Okay, and then when I need to do the top, what I'll do is I'll use this straight edge that I have now, the 1/4 inch from here, to try and keep my ruler aligned to the end. So I'm going to keep it at 1/4 inch, align it to the bottom portion. It's at 1/4 inch, and so that gives me guidance for how much to chop off along the top portion. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to align 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch down here at the 2 points. Hold it down firmly. And I'm going to do something that I Normally wouldn't do, but I'm going to make sure I'm standing far away from the table here because I'm going to cut toward me. Get that little bit off. And then to finish the cut, I'm just going to scoot it up. And I will make sure that my ruler goes above that last point, just so I know that it's aligned up top. There's a 1/4 inch. It's aligned to the top edge up here. And then I will finish my cut. So I want to make sure it's also aligned down here. There we go. So just kind of adjust the top and bottom and middle as needed. And there we go. Okay, as far as centering the corner pieces, I'll show you with one I've already attached. There will be a little bit of overhang with your triangles, and when I centered mine, you can see down here there's a little more on this side. What I did was used this point here as the center mark, because here's the center, and so just imagine that diagonal line extending until it reaches that corner there. So just kind of use the middle of the closest block to align the point to when you're pinning the corner piece down. Has certainly been one beautiful thing to come out of 2020. If you liked this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you get alerts for new videos. And if you want to learn more about my thoughts on this quilt, visit my website at aquiltingtale.com. Thanks for watching.